start to really do the work and I become an energetic match and I'm sitting down and I'm pulling the affirmations that really work for me, I will see that money coming in, but I might not see it through myself. Hello friends. Welcome back to another episode of What Savvy Said podcast. I am Savannah, aka the savvy behind What Savvy Said, and it has been a minute since we've done a podcast episode, since we've done a video that goes with the podcast episode. I actually thought I would be taking an extended break from the podcast. It's been kind of like niggling in the back of my mind as to what I want to do with it, what I want this space to look like going forward for us. And I woke up today and I just felt like the last week has given me so much clarity in a lot of little ways, in ways that I need to let go of stuff, in ways that I feel like things aren't working for me, the life of a content creator. And I had this just moment of, I wanted to sit down and talk to you. I wanted to share this with you. I wanted to have this conversation because I feel like I've had really big shifts with manifesting money in the last few months. And I love sharing that. I love talking about it. And I love having this space for that, for us all to grow together. So that's what we're going to dive into today. I also want to talk about the fact that my favorite money course is currently on sale. I will link all of that in the description box below, but we're going to get all into it today. I'm going to give you all the juicy details. We're going to dig into why maybe you're manifesting money through everybody else but yourself. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory and it's going to be a good one. So yeah, let's get into it. I love hearing these kind of personal stories because it's one of those that when I hear somebody's story, it helps me kind of connect with maybe things that are happening in my own life in a way that I just probably would have like brushed it to the side. So we're going to kind of talk about my own personal financial situation. So I have a fairly decent history with money. When I started doing the work on like limiting beliefs and understanding my relationship with money, I understood that to a degree I was surrounded by people who have very like just old Southern mindsets about money, and that I also have seen quite a bit of money in our house come and go. Like big money has never been a scary thing. We've sold multiple houses, we've inherited houses. The like getting big money and it kind of just happening out of nowhere has been standard for us more than one time. So the idea of big money and like big money sitting in the bank account, that was kind of normal for me. But financial freedom has been a journey for me over the last few years in a way where I could fully, completely financially support myself. So let's get backstory there. I didn't grow up with a lot of like information around budgeting. I didn't grow up with a lot of kind of talk about money. I have a big medical family, so a lot of them are very used to, you have a job, you always have a job because you work in the medical field, you go to work, you get paid, you know, we kind of go from there. Like nobody talked about money in my house. And so that was one thing, on top of the fact that I picked a job in a freelance bubble. I picked a job where my first, like, the job that I really went after was film, and it's kind of inconsistent. And so there was never any like positive conversations around savings. There was never any like, let me teach you how interest works on a credit card. Like none of those conversations ever happened. And I was really fortunate enough that when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, my parents would help kind of financially support me. They wanted me to have that better life. They wanted me to be in a bigger city. They knew that I was going after a career that really didn't pay all that much, but they also wanted me to be safe, living on my own, and they also visited a lot. So they were really happy to like financially support in that way because kind of paying for their own vacation spot in their own way. So moving forward, I, I've always had multiple jobs. And when I moved home in 2016, so I moved back to my hometown, I moved back knowing that I was going to be helping take care of a family member. So I was leaving a career that I'd worked really hard to kind of get to the point that I was at, being that I would finally like have consistent work. I had met enough people. I was starting to flow from job to job. The financial balance of it wasn't there yet because I still hadn't really learned how to deal with my emotions. And like, there was a lot of stuff that I needed to learn. So when I was preparing to move home, part of why I wanted to move home was to turn my financial situation around. And it was just something I'd felt like called to do. Like I knew 6 or 7 months ahead, I got this like little whisper, and I get these every so often. We'll talk about them, I'm sure, in a future episode. But I got this like just nudge that that was coming. So I was fully prepared for it. But the understanding when I moved home was that my family would financially support me. That because I was taking on this kind of caretaker role, that would be how that transitioned for me, that because they were able to do that, they weren't having to hire outside of the house, that it was just something that would work for me. And the end of that situation kind of hit at around the time of COVID. So the person in my family I was taking care of passed away about 6 months before we started really going into lockdown. So of course, the world being what it was and how that was kind of moving, I was starting to understand how to manifest money. I was starting to understand what it looked like to manifest money, like early 2020. And I still wanted to build financial freedom for myself. And I have watched specifically as I've really kind of dug into manifesting money over the last 6 months, when I start to really do the work and I become an energetic match and I'm sitting down and I'm pulling the affirmations that really work for me, I will see that money coming in, but I might not see it through myself. And I kind of had to like gradually go over that and figure out what that looked like and why it was happening that way. But I continually began to notice that I would manifest through somebody else, specifically the person in my family who was financially supporting me. I would see raises come in for them. I'd see random bonuses come in for them. Like I knew that the money was coming and it was coming in. And it was taking me a while to figure out why was it coming in through all these other places and why wasn't it coming in through me? And what did that look like for me? And times throughout the week, it just kind of depends on where I'm at. But I really had to kind of give myself permission to have money, to fully support myself with money, and to not have to take care of anybody else with money. Like I've had to give myself permission that that is okay. And I think part of that for me has been starting the process of looking at, where do I have codependent tendencies? Where am I taking care of other people and not setting boundaries so that they can feel fully supported for themselves, or that I'm not showing up for myself, and kind of just establishing that I get to be fully supported. I get to take care of me, that it can look like multiple ways and it can be a completely either positive thing or a neutral thing, that me stepping up financially doesn't negatively impact any relationship, that these all get to look good, that these all get to be great, and that I get to have money flow to me and that it gets to be a positive experience. Because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who building in a space where it can feel even more insecure and can kind of really push your boundaries to feel like you are financially supporting yourself fully, it can feel very stretching. Like it can feel, I don't want to say overwhelming, but I think I had to kind of get to the point where I had to give myself permission, and I really had to understand how money was going to impact these relationships, and then decide how it was going to impact these relationships. Because I was getting to a point where I thought, I'm hitting the same walls. Those walls are there for a reason. It can be like peeling back an onion. Like it takes a little bit of time to release a layer, feel comfortable enough to see the next one. Release a layer to feel comfortable enough to see the next one. A practice that I like to do regularly, especially when I'm calling in larger financial numbers, is I will write out what it looks like for me to spend that money, exactly how I'm going to spend that money, why I want it, and anywhere in there that feels maybe unsupported, or if I feel like I can't have that, I go through and kind of figure out if I need to look at a deeper layer. Maybe I'm not getting specific enough for myself. Specifically, I have a video coming up that I really want to create. I really want to create a transitional dress video for you guys. I have been going through the energy of figuring out, do I want brand partnerships right now? How do I truly want to run this space for myself, knowing that I get to manifest money, that I get to have money, that money gets to just be, that I don't have to like push and funnel it in through very specific ways. Because as last month proved for me, I ended up with an extra $1,200 from something that I did not expect to have, and it just showed up in my bank account. And that was kind of the universe being like, listen, you're getting it, it's clicking, we need you to like keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep being here, keep going through it. Like you're on the right path, you're setting the right boundaries, you're setting the new foundation, you're elevating all of your minimums. And so in knowing that that's an option, I've been looking at, what does it look like for me to create this video? What does it look like for me to create this video exactly how I want it to be? And even more so, what does it look like even under that? I think for me, sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about how it's going to change the relationships around you and the fear that you have with that, with the money, and healing and setting new boundaries and deciding for yourself that it's going to be okay if you have that money, that you can't change anybody. And there's a process that I've been going through that will be a future episode, I'm sure, kind of as I've stepped away from going to church and kind of really just breaking down the psychology of ways that I've been conditioned through religion versus where I feel like I'm the most supported. And, you know, God's always in the center of things for me. Like, that's not a question for me. But there's a lot of things that don't necessarily separate when you're taught them when you're younger, like your self-worth and like that you have to be dependent on something else. There's a lot of those tendencies that just kind of blanket over everything. So what does it look like to not feel like you need to save everybody? Because when you've been raised as a Christian, it's kind of the opposite. Like, you're pretty much taught to preach and to need to constantly be on the lookout for people to bring into the church, like, but of getting to have positive relationships and really kind of just giving yourself permission to set boundaries in whatever gentle ways you need to. They might not even be ways that have to be very loud. It just might be and reestablishing things for yourself and giving yourself permission for things. But I found that that was something that I needed to do. I needed to give myself permission to gently talk about money in the way that I wanted to. All right, guys, Asher's decided to visit. But I needed to gently set those boundaries and to really understand and to give myself permission to just take care of me. That I was available to just take care of me. And that maybe as I grow and as things happen, that I will get to financially invest in people around me, but that I'm also not obligated to. And that maybe sometimes I don't need to. Maybe sometimes the part of it is that they get to learn that this works for them too. They get to figure out how to invest in themselves. They get to see money in a new way. The opportunity is there for them to heal with money in a whole new way. So that has been, I'd say, a good chunk of the last month. So this month I'm really excited about the fact that I'm really getting to see kind of how energetic minimums work with money. Having that like extra $1,200 last month has already automatically bumped up my energetic minimum, and I'm seeing it already in certain ways. I'm looking to raise that even more. So I'm really excited to kind of see how that goes over the next few months. I'm really digging into how I want things to go, how I want things to grow, really letting go of like the bigger picture of things. I will do kind of a whole episode on that of, you know, maybe how to be present and manifest right now with really big goals. But I'm seeing lots of big changes right now, and it's really exciting. And it's, you know, nice to be able to kind of let go of things every week. So I hope this week's episode helped you. I want to give you guys a journal prompt because I feel like sometimes those are the things that help me the most whenever I'm looking to kind of flip the script on something. So if you find that you've been manifesting primarily through somebody else, what would it feel like for you to have that money versus them? And how would that impact your relationship? What would that look like for you? So if it's your partner, if it's your husband, if it's your mother, your father, your kid, whatever, what would it look like? How would you feel if you had that money? How would they feel about it if you had that money versus them? And maybe there's something there that you're not realizing is kind of happening. And that's an opportunity for you to be like, oh, like I get to change how I want this to happen. Maybe I'm seeing it a certain way. Maybe there's a limiting belief that I need to heal there, or maybe there's something that I need to let go of. But it's an opportunity for you to figure out maybe why the money's not landing exactly where you want it to land because you've got a mindset hanging out that you don't know about. So I love you guys. I hope you all have a beautiful week. If you want like weekly inspiration, journal prompts, affirmations, all that jazz, I will leave a link in the description box in the show notes for you to sign up for the weekly newsletter. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I also upload luxury life and style content. I really like to do both sides of this, talk about the money side of it and really give you what it looks like to live it in real life, along with mental health conversations. Those are always happening. You're welcome to come follow along with Instagram. I am on all the social platforms. Wherever you like to get your inspiration, come hang out with me on there. And I will see you guys in the next video, in the next episode. I love you. It is a good day to have a good day, and I hope you'll have a beautiful week. Bye, guys.